Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our June functional overview on the Wonders of Worktags. We're about 2 minutes from the top of the hour and we'll be starting shortly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. You are in the webinar on the functional overview, the Wonders of Worktags in Workday. We'll be starting shortly, so hope you have your cup of coffee, whatever you need. We'll be starting on time at the top of the hour. So thank you for joining us. Okay, we are at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. I see that attendees are still filing into the webinar. So real quick, I wanted to just welcome you again. This is the June functional overview on the Wonders of Worktags in Workday, a little bit of a tongue twister. And a couple points I want to make while you're with us today. First is we have enabled the transcript. So the closed caption is available for you if you so choose to activate that feature. Second, we are recording this session currently, and the session recording will be available once we have it remediated for accessibility. And what will be posted are two things. One is this full webinar session, the full 45 minutes that we have. We will also post just the video Workday demonstration. So if you want to see the full 45 minutes, you're welcome to watch that once it's posted. Or if you want to just focus in on just the demonstration, that will be available as a separate item. And the last point I want to make is we have enabled the webinar Q&A feature. We encourage you to ask your questions throughout the session. Don't hold them until the end. We'd like you to, as you have a question, post it in there. We have a team of panelists working in the background that will be answering your questions. We also have allotted time at the end of the session if there's any live questions that we can take care of. And lastly, we do have a short poll that we're going to ask you to complete at the very end of the session. So with that, again, welcome. We're excited to have you here. We hope this isn't your first time, but if it is, welcome to our functional overview. I'd like to briefly introduce our team for today. I'm Gabe Bugenhagen. I'm the change management lead. I've had the pleasure of meeting several of you over the course of my career at College Park. We're also joined today by Lee Ellis. She is our readiness and training lead, and she is actually the voice that you'll hear in the video demo later. So if you want to put a face to the voice, there's Lee's picture. She's here. We also are joined today by Karen Dieso. She is our communications lead, and she has the important job today of moderating all the questions that you guys are going to have. And so she'll pop in at the end of the session to also facilitate the live Q&A. And last but not least, I'm glad to have Trina Tanna here joining us. She is the FDM, and she'll tell you all about what FDM is. So I'm not going to, spoil any surprise there, but she is the financial accounting lead on the Elevate program. So if this is your first time or you've only attended one, I just wanted to give a quick refresher on what are functional overviews. We have completed 4 already since February. And again, those are all posted on our website if you'd like to go back and see those sessions. But here's what you can expect over the time that you're with us today. First of all, these sessions are designed with you in mind. They're designed for a broad general audience, and we encourage everyone to attend. So even if you don't think you will be using Worktags, we encourage you to attend this functional overview or any other just to become more familiar with Workday. It's our opportunity to give you a little sneak peek. These sessions are not intended to be full-blown training, and we don't expect that at the end of the day, you're going to be able to do some of the things that you'll see. These are functional overviews, broad topics. They're monthly sessions. We target them for the last Thursday of the month, always at 11 a.m. We try to keep it to less than an hour, so this is 45 minutes. So we know you guys have other commitments, and it'll give you a little break maybe before your next top of the hour meeting. And all that said, we want to remind you that what you see today might be tweaked a little different by the time we go live. We as a team, we're still working. For example, when you see the demo, the banner that's at the top, the picture might change. But we think that any changes that happen between now and go live are not going to be significant, but we do just want to call that out. Lastly, these functional overviews, again, are opportunity to ask questions. Please use that Q&A feature, use it throughout the session, and don't feel that you need to wait until the very end. So our agenda for today. First, we're going to start by explaining what are worktags. It was a new word for me, so Trina's going to give us a good overview on what they are and what the benefits are. Trina specifically, since she's our financial person, we're going to focus today on financial worktags that you can see here, and she'll be giving more definitions and examples of that, including spend and revenue categories. And then after the demo, we'll give some more information about how you can learn more about worktags and also how you can learn more about the Elevate program. And now I'd like to turn it over to Trina for her presentation.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Gay. And thank you all for bearing with me. This is my first functional overview where I am presenting. So I'm just going to jump right in and talk to you about what are work tags. So work tags are identifiers that, just like their name implies, tag a transaction in Workday. They support our financial, managerial, and statutory reporting, and Koali Financial System, or KFS accounts, object codes, org codes, they will all become work tags in Workday. Our work tags can be related to other work tags, meaning that when you select one work tag on a transaction, other work tags will automatically be populated. And this will be explained more in a later slide. So while I won't go into detail on the HCM work tags during this functional overview, this slide shows some of the more commonly used work tags across the entire Workday platform in both HCM and Fin. You'll hear these often and learn quite a bit about them in future functional overviews and in training. So grant, project, gift, USource, fund, cost center, revenue category, spend category, and this functional overview, these are the financial work tags that we will focus on. So work tags help you to find information more easily. Unlike in KFS, you don't need to know a specific code. Work tag names or values are easily searchable via filters or by type. So for example, you may need to search a grant, and the title of the grant is Time Use Study for Health and Well-Being. So you could search time or you could search health, and that will significantly narrow your results. You'll also see on the next slide how a selection of one work tag can auto-populate the other related work tags. This makes it easier for all of the users, and it greatly improves our data quality. So another benefit is with reporting. The FDM allows you to report on any, or rather on multiple work tags. Being able to use the combination of work tags is going to allow for more flexible reporting. And finally, data integrity is controlled via business process approvals and other custom validations. So now let's talk about how to select work tags on a transaction. When you select work tags, you start by selecting what we call a driver work tag, and these are in the red box. A driver work tag is like a KFS account, and examples in Workday include grant, project, gift, and use source work tags. So selecting a driver work tag will auto-populate what we call the related work tags, and they're in this gray box. Related work tags are equivalent to our attributes on a KFS account. So in KFS, we currently only see these attributes on the account, but in Workday, you will see this information like your fund and cost center actually on the transactions themselves. You will also need to select an operational work tags, and those are right here in the blue box. They are like our KFS object codes. Examples of these are like revenue category for the collection of funds through appropriations and services and tuition into the university or into a particular unit, and spend category used to classify any expense or expenditure related item like supplies or maybe lease payments. So let's visualize this a little differently by comparing KFS accounts and object codes to Workday's FDM work tags. In this example, the College Park Psychology Department is purchasing office supplies. In KFS, you would enter the account number and the object code. But in Workday, you can see that the account is like entering the use source work tag or some other driver work tag. You'd be able to see the department's name and the title of the account instead of having to memorize the account number. So by selecting the use source work tag, the fund and cost center related work tags would automatically be populated. So if this is a purchase requisition, you'd also be required to enter a spend category. And in this example, you'd be selecting office supplies. This is equivalent to an object code in KFS. So now that I've introduced work tags and how they function, I want to highlight some of the key financial work tags that you'll see in the system. So at the first and highest level of work tags is the company work tag. Company represents a legal entity, and in most cases, it's with its own tax ID. But for us, it's identified as a chart or campus in KFS. And most financial reports are run in the context of a company, such as your balance sheets and income statements. So please draw your attention to the companies here in the blue text. They are our current campuses supported by KFS. You can see here that our values for company in Workday closely mimics what they are in KFS. One thing to note is that Shady Grove will be its own company in Workday with the ability to run separate financial reports as noted before. So a cost center is a unit, whether it be a department, a division, an institution, or a school to which costs are charged. It is identified as an organization in KFS with a corresponding org code. It differs from a soup org, which you may have heard about or will hear about later in HCM discussions. Soup org is not a fin or financial work tag. So Workday allows you to view the manager and roll up for each budget. This is what we call a cost center hierarchy. Cost center hierarchies are completely different from HCM supervisory organization hierarchies. Those focus more on people than on the unit. So for example, divisions will become a cost center hierarchy, as you can see here. One call out is that the cost center numbers start with CC, then the school identifier, and the final values are sequentially assigned. Thankfully, as we've mentioned before, and you'll also see in the demo, you do not need to memorize numbers to view or select the right cost center. In this example, you can see how the College of Behavioral and Social Sciences at the department level rose up to the division level and then to the executive level of VP, Academic Affairs, and Provost. So now that you've seen company and cost center, let's talk about the 4 driver work tags. These are identified as accounts in KFS. We have grant, project, gift, and USource work tags, and they're unique to each company or campus. So let's start with USource. A USource work tag is a driver work tag used for university-specific needs. General guidance is that if it is not a grant, not a gift, or a project, you'll use the general use USource work tag. So for those familiar with our current KFS setup, USource work tags will be used for our ledger 1, 2, 3, 7, and 9 accounts in KFS. Those are our state accounts, drift accounts, auxiliaries, and others that are noted here on this slide. So in addition to USource, there are 3 other driver work tags that represent the remaining KFS accounts. Your ledger 4s and 5s in KFS currently house your grants, sponsored awards, and your various donor gifts. In Workday, they will be represented with either your grant or your gift work tag. Your capital and service projects are currently your ledger 8 accounts in KFS. In Workday, they will be represented with the project work tag. As stated before, Workday has a robust search system, and where you were used to always using numbers in KFS, you'll use the project name to pull it up. But I want to remind you that you will need at least 1 driver work tag on every transaction. And before we move into the demonstration, let's talk quickly about the revenue and spend categories. So a revenue category mimics an object code in KFS. It classifies your different sources of funding that come into the university. This slide shows a short list of some of the common revenue sources and object codes in KFS and what they will become in Workday. Don't get worried about the numbering scheme. As in Workday, you will most often use a word search, as we will show you in the demonstration momentarily. A spend category mimics an expense or an expenditure object code in KFS. It classifies your different uses of funding that goes out of the university or from one unit to another, usually to buy or pay for things. This slide shows a short list of some of the common expenditures and object codes in KFS and what they will become in Workday. Again, don't get worried about the numbering scheme. With that, it is finally time for the demo. So Gay, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Trina. I appreciate that. So your presentation, it provided a great foundation for, it cues up really well into the demonstration that we're about to show. We're going to show how we do work tags, how we get them added to a transaction. And the example that we're going to use is creating a purchase requisition. Now, in the demonstration, we're not going to take that create a purchase requisition all the way through. We have another functional overview later this year that will go into more detail. We want to focus this demonstration on the work tags, the driver work tags and relateds and so on like that. Um, and so with that, I will play the demo.
In Workday, you'll need to enter all the required information when completing a transaction. Often, this required information is gathered by selecting the right work tags. Let's demonstrate work tags in action by starting a purchase requisition. I will be logging in as Evan employee in this Workday training environment. Evan needs to purchase office supplies for his department. He can use Shell Shop for this, but for this demonstration, Evan will use a non-Shell Shop requisition. We won't complete the full transaction, but we'll get him started. To start a purchase requisition, Evan will type Create Requisition in the Workday search bar and select the task. Now we can start creating the purchase requisition. We'll cover more of the details about purchase requisitioning in other trainings, so let's focus instead on the work tags. You'll see many of the fields already default with information like requester, company, and currency. This makes it easy for us to enter data. We can also see there are mandatory fields that must be completed. Mandatory Workday fields are indicated with a red asterisk. There may also be mandatory fields that are not mandated by Workday but are mandated by UMD. They are not labeled with a red asterisk, but don't worry. Workday lets you know if you are missing any fields once you click one of the buttons like Submit or Next. You'll then have a chance to complete the UMD mandatory fields before clicking the button again. Let's get back to it. I see that requisition type is a mandatory field that we must complete. Evan may need some help determining this one. Thankfully, we can see by clicking into the field that there's a drop-down list of options. We'll select that this is a standard requisition. Great! Looking at the other mandatory fields, we can see that Ship To, which is the shipping address, already has default information. Evan can change this information as needed. We'll leave it alone and move on to the next section. Here are some familiar work tags: Grant, Gift, Project, and USource. These are driver work tags that identify the funding source. In this case, they are used to manage expenses. Evan needs to determine if his purchase of office supplies is related to a grant, a gift, or a project. If not, he'll use the USource work tag. Evan isn't quite sure what to enter here, but good news, Workday makes it easy. Let's click into the USource field. Evan can select from available options under My Work Tags. My Work Tags will include the work tags associated with his cost center. He can select an option for it to populate as the USource. If he makes a mistake, he can just click the X and try again. Evan knows that the office supplies are for the Department of Engineering and Aviation Sciences in UMES's School of Business and Technology. What if he types UMES BTech to see what populates? Well, would you look at that? All of the work tags that have UMES BTech in the name display. That's still a lot of search results to go through. What if we add the word engineering? By typing in engineering, we've significantly reduced the search results. Now Evan can more easily select the correct work tag. Now that we've selected a USource driver work tag, did you see how the additional work tags updated? They did. The additional work tags section automatically updated the related work tags. Work tags such as cost center and fund are what we call related work tags. These related work tags automatically populated once we selected the uSource driver work tag. That's a relief. There's no other mandatory field in this window, so we'll click OK. We're taken to the Create Requisition page that includes instructions and the option to either request goods or services not in the catalog or connect to Shell Shop. Again, you'll learn more about these in a separate training, so for now, we'll click Request Non-Catalog Items. On this page, Evan will need to provide more information about the office supplies he needs to purchase. Let's practice using work tags one more time before we let Evan continue creating his requisition. Let's look at Spend category. Spend category represents a classification of spend transaction. Examples include printing and reproduction, audiovisual equipment, construction work, and so much more. Sometimes it's helpful to scan the available options to understand what is needed in the field. Let's click to see the available options. Yes, there are a lot of options here. Let's use the search feature instead. Evan is looking to buy office supplies, so what if he types supplies? That helped narrow it down. I bet if we type office supplies, it narrows it down even further. Perfect. Evan knows what to select now. To complete the rest of this purchase requisition, Evan will need to add an item description, select a supplier, enter quantity and unit cost, and select a unit of measure. He can then add this to his cart and proceed to submitting his requisition. We hope through this example you learned more about using work tags in a transaction. Thanks for watching.
Great. We hope you enjoyed the demonstration. I know for me personally, having come from an academic unit, I'm especially looking forward to, once I selected driver work tag, you saw how all the additional work tags automatically got populated and I was able to see what they were. So personally, I would find that really helpful as I'm doing my requisitions to see all that information. So how can you learn more? I'm going to cover two things. One is how you can learn more about Workday specifically, and then more generally, how you can learn about the Elevate program. So as far as learning more about Workdays before go live, the formal training will begin in the spring of 23. It will be computer-based training about how to use work tags. There will also be training on if new values or updates need to be requested. That will be a separate process. And lastly, as Trina said, and I fully support this, being able to use that search feature is great, using words rather than trying to remember the 7-digit KFS accounts. But the Fin team is also working to put together some crosswalks for you so that you can see or have a job aid that will show if the object code was 3916, what is the corresponding spend category in Workday? And it will also include the KFS accounts. Like me, if you've been around for a while, you probably have a lot of your KFS accounts memorized, the 7 digits, because you had to. So there will be a crosswalk to let you know what the corresponding or the new Workday driver work tag will be. And then lastly, if you want to learn more about the Elevate program, I recommend that you start first at our website. It's www.elevate.umd.edu. On the website, we have a bunch of different materials for you. One is overall the Elevate program, what the goals are. You can also see some of our timeline and the next steps. We also curate there a frequently asked questions. So some things that may have come out of this webinar will or may be posted on our FAQ section of the website. We also publish a monthly newsletter. It comes out on the last Tuesday of the month, and it's called The Elevator. And that's a great resource to learn more about what's happening with Workday as far as where we are in the project. We include some words of Workday. We usually spotlight a team member. And it's also a way that you can get information about registering for events, such as the next functional overview. The other item we curate on the website is a glossary. What we're trying to do is give people an opportunity to learn more about the Workday words and what their definitions are. And lastly, it's a place for our news and events. And the newsletter gets published there if you don't subscribe and you want to check it out. But we also post registration links for our functional overviews, our town halls, any of the other events that we might have coming up. I will give a little plug out now that the next functional overview will be on Workday Learning, and it's on July 28th, again at 11 a.m. Subscribe to the newsletter and you'll get first cut at the registration link on Tuesday. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Hi, everyone. So I have a quick poll that I'm going to share with all of you. And if you could just fill it out for us, that would be great. And I will leave the poll up for about a minute to give everyone ample time to respond. And then after our poll, we will go into our Q&A session with Trina. We have been receiving questions on the back end of the webinar that our team has also been triaging and taking care of and providing answers to you all as well. So thank you for your engagement and participation. It's been great. I'm gonna give it about 30 more seconds. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Thank you for your participation in our poll. And then Gay, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so questions and answers. So we have gotten a lot of questions on the back end that I'm gonna go ahead and pose to Trina, but there are also a lot of questions in the Q&A portal that our other team members have been answering as well, if you want to take a look. But first, I want to address some of our most common questions that we always get at the functional overviews. People are asking if this presentation will be available after this session. And yes, we post the full recording of this full webinar session to our website. We also send an email to everyone that's attended and people that didn't attend but did register with a link to this recording. And there also is a separate link that we will share to the demo, and those will both be on YouTube. And then all of our previous functional overviews live on our website as well, all those recordings. So that is that, but moving on into some questions that we received during the session. The first question I have for you, Trina, is, and I think you spoke to this in the presentation, but just kind of reiterate, what is FDM? Because it's an acronym, it's a new acronym. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, thank you. So FDM, it stands for Foundation Data Model. And it's a framework to support the accounting and financial reporting in Workday. It's very similar to or equivalent to a chart of accounts. It drives the security and workflow. And in Workday, it actually supports both finance and HCM, but it stands for Foundation Data Model.
Great. Thank you. Next question. So in KFS currently, we open our own accounts with the details. In Workday, will this be managed centrally or locally?
So in Workday, creating new work tags, which is the same as opening new accounts, that will be managed centrally. There will be a form that you'll be able to start in your units, and it will route to the central offices for the actual creation of the work tag. So though it won't be exactly the same, it will appear and be very similar to the process in KFS.
Awesome. And then another question that we got, if there's an incorrect work tag on a transaction, is there a way to change it? How would you be able to change it?
Yes, definitely. So it depends on where the transaction originated. So you'll have options like an accounting adjustment on the original transaction, or there's a journal entry to correct the work tag. That'll be discussed more in later functional overviews, and there will be training. However, just be rest assured that there is a correction process.
Great. I actually wanted to call out a question that one of our team members answered graciously on the back end. Someone asked, they said, you become familiar with the codes you use often, and searching is helpful the first couple of times, but when entering the codes, sometimes people type in partial codes and tags like 191 or 200 and just hit enter. So I guess the question is, do you have to type in words, or can you type in numbers, or if you're familiar with the numbers already? The answer to that is, if you know the number, you can enter it directly without searching for a value. But I imagine that in the beginning, everyone will not know the numbers and will just be able to search using text. Next question for you, Trina. Will the existing KFS account numbers still exist in Workday?
So yeah, so that kind of piggybacks on the question that was just answered, but no, you won't have the existing KFS account numbers. It's not a Workday best practice to have this numbering scheme the way we've had it. But, you know, as we've shown you, there's this robust search function. And what I believe Gay mentioned in one of her later slides is that there's also a crosswalk report for KFS account numbers to Workday, as well as one for KFS object codes to the spend and revenue categories in Workday. So until you kind of get the hand of the search capabilities, those crosswalks will truly become your best friend.
Yes, no, definitely. And I know Gay did speak to this, that there will be a couple of different crosswalks specifically for KFS to Workday terms, which would be helpful. There is also currently a glossary on the website that is more general Workday terms for people to explore. Words like we did mention company earlier today, that's in the glossary. Cost center hierarchy, I believe, was mentioned, that's in the glossary as well. So all these new terms, you'll be able to reference a multitude of documents that we are creating to refresh your memory. Next question for you, Trina. We got one, someone asking, will current accounts transfer into Workday when the program is up and running? I think they were asking if this is only for new requests.
So your current accounts will transfer into Workday. They will all be converted into Workday. The process that we talked about in terms of getting a new driver or a new account, that will only be for new requests, but all of your current accounts will actually be converted into Workday.
Great. Another question, will Shady Grove be its own company in Workday?
Yes. We mentioned that. It actually is UM09, but Shady Grove will be its own company in Workday.
We also got a question that is a more general question that in the back end that I'll take. Someone asked, when are we going live with Workday? As a reminder, we're going live with Workday on July 1st, 2023 for HCM, which is Human Capital Management, which is another question we got earlier. So HCM stands for Human Capital Management. And that will go live in 2023 in July, along with the finance system. And then as a reminder, training for Workday will start in spring of 2023 so that we provide enough time for everyone to get their hands in the system and understand. We provide enough time for everyone to receive adequate training, but also so that you don't forget everything before we go live. And another, okay, so let's dive back into some other questions for Trina. Oh, this is kind of speaking to what I just mentioned. I am not going to remember everything. So someone says, I am not going to remember everything we just learned about all the terms. Will there be job aids to help in the transition from KFS?
Yes, there will be the extensive training that you talked about. There will be job aids available. And as we mentioned a couple of times, you'll have those crosswalks, your KFS account to your driver work tag, your KFS object code to your revenue and spend category. You'll have all those things in addition to the glossary that's currently on the Elevate website. It has many of these terms. So you will get all of this again over and over.
Great. Another question I got is, I think this is another question about kind of how the search functionality will work in Workday for Worktags. Someone asked, if you type in robotics in the search field, will it pull up all the robotics KFS accounts or Workday? So they said KFS accounts, or the Workday accounts, the work tags in the system, or just the ones that you will have access to view?
So you'll actually get a list of everything that has that word in it. And you'll be able to see the name, but you wouldn't be able to see any of the financial information that's so associated with it unless you actually have the security permissions to view that. So all of it will come up and you can continue to try to narrow it down like we did in the demonstration where she added the word engineering. But yes, the entire list will be there, and then you will try to narrow it down, and you will only be able to see financial information for items that you actually have permission for.
Great. I think we have time for a few more questions. We're going to end promptly at 11:45. So another question for you is, can the requester for the new uSource be the uSource manager?
So yes, if you're able to do that now in KFS, so the uSource manager would be similar to our fiscal officer. This is probably someone who's seen one of the other presentations, but it would be similar to our fiscal officer in KFS. And so if you're able to do that now in KFS, you will have those same permissions and be able to make that request in Workday.
Great. And we also, related to that question, we got a couple of questions in our Q&A portal about what is a uSource as well. And our team did go ahead and answer those publicly in the portal, but just to reiterate, in case anyone hasn't had a chance to review, a uSource is a driver work tag used for university specific needs. And I believe, Trina, you went more into detail about what a uSource is.
Yeah. So it's pretty much anything that's not a gift, a grant, or project. We have lumped that into uSource, and it includes our state accounts, DRIF, MIPS, as well as auxiliary. So all of those type of accounts that were listed on that slide, and you'll have that for reference. But if it's not a gift, a grant, or project, it's a uSource in Workday.
Great. I am looking through, I think a lot of our questions have been answered. Someone asked, does Workday provide hands-on training like simulations? Our team was able to answer this in the background, but I can speak to it as well. In the spring, in 2023, we'll provide training which will include computer-based training that'll have simulations, Workday simulations. We're also going to have user labs in the spring of 2023, where we'll invite people to join and have one-on-one attention and hands-on practice in Workday using scenarios, like any kind of scenario that relates to someone's role. So you will receive plenty of training and guidance and hands-on experience with Workday before we go live. I think, as Gay mentioned earlier, these sessions are provided to you to kind of give you a sneak peek and kind of give you a 300-foot view of what you can expect in 2023, because 2023 is both far away and very close. So we want to provide everyone with as much or perfect amount of information to start getting comfortable with Workday without spraying a fire hose at everyone on campus. And yeah, so all right, so we are at 11:44, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the Q&A. But if you have a question in the chat or in Q&A that was not addressed, we will be following up with you. I just want to thank everyone for your engagement, and I will hand it over to Gay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Trina. Loved your presentation. I always enjoy listening to you. I know you come with so much experience here. It's great. And I love your explanations. I understand. You make it very easy for me to learn what you're talking about. So thank you for that. And Karen, thank you for the moderating the Q&A. It looks like you guys were busy in the background answering all the questions. As Karen noted, if you did ask a question that we were not able to get to today, either because of time or we need to do some additional research to answer it, we will be following up with you directly after the session. Again, say it, this session was recorded and we will be posting it. It does need to be remediated for accessibility, and that takes my team a couple of days to get that done. As an attendee, you will receive an email when it has been posted. And if somebody registered for the session but was unable to attend, they will also receive an email that the recording has been posted. So in closing, on behalf of myself and everybody on the team or the screen that you see here and our panelists that have been working in the background, thank you for coming to this functional overview, and we hope to see you at future sessions. Thank you.